Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 11. Today we are going to present our research on Sheikh Muhammad Abduh, thoughts and contributions in Islamic civilization.
My name is Siti Natra binti Ismail, metric number 1201361.
My name is Nurul Syafiqah binti Muhammad Ramli, number matric 1201418.
First of all, I would like to share about research background. This study discussed the talk of education and contribution of Sheikh Muhammad Abduh to Islamic civilization. Based on several previous studies, researchers found that Sheikh Muhammad Abduh's thinking in education had an impact on Islamic civilization, and his great background made him known all over the world. This is the main reason why this study was conducted. Nevertheless, past researchers have also found that there are various of talk Sheikh Muhammad Abduh, including his talk in terms of theology, education, faith, religion, politics, and efficient management has had an impact on many parties since centuries ago. And even until now, his name is still mentioned because of the contribution he gave in the Islamic world. Therefore, the study is focused on the talk of education and contributions of Sheikh Muhammad Abduh. The research method used in this study is a combination of library and field methods. The research instruments used include interviews and content analysis. The result of the study found that the talk and contribution of Sheikh Muhammad Abduh are still efficient until now and have a great impact on the development of Islamic countries, especially in terms of education. Next, I will share about problem statement. The study is related to the talk of education and contribution to Islamic civilization made by Islamic figures of the caliber of Sheikh Muhammad Abduh. We already know that Sheikh Muhammad Abduh was one of the most famous figures of Islam or Reformation at the end of the 19th century and at the beginning of 20th century. Efforts to reckon Muslims were emphasized by him so that the European society dominates the political, economic, and intellectual field. They are far behind because of their stagnant attitude that dominates themselves. Furthermore, Sheikh Muhammad Abduh stressed the process of purifying the Islamic community based on the Quran and the Sunnah. The ideas sparked by him also influenced scientific figures all over the world, including in Malaysia. But the question is, what are the talk and contributions of Sheikh Muhammad Abduh that have an impact on renewal in the history of Islamic civilization until today? Okay, then I will share about research questions and research objective. Okay, firstly, research questions. In this study, the basic questions we fundamentally related to this research are summarized in two, which is the first one is what are the talk of Sheikh Muhammad Abduh from education. Secondly, what is Sheikh Muhammad Abduh's contribution to Islamic civilizations. And then the research objective of the study is firstly to identify Sheikh Muhammad Abduh's talk in education, and secondly to identify the contributions of Sheikh Muhammad Abduh on Islamic civilization. Moreover, I will share about the scope of study. The study focused on the talk and contribution of Sheikh Muhammad Abduh. The data collection will be conducted to people who know the pupil, who recognize the figure of Sheikh Muhammad Abduh and his background, who will represent the population. The study will not cover the other problems that are not considered as one of the talk and contribution. The other people who do not fall as part of people who know Sheikh Muhammad Abduh are not within the scope of this research. The study would be done through the utilization of one-to-one interview a person as a respondent and reference. By the strategy, the researcher will be able to know the talks and contribution of Sheikh Muhammad Abduh. and then I will share about data collection for this study. In this study, we applied method of data collection technique and document analysis. We collect the data from the study through interview. We make selection of participants for an interview because we understand that the selection interview will ensure a better selection of people to be the respondent. Therefore, to obtain primary information, face-to-face interviews were employed and prepared written questions to the interviews use the structured interview. In this context, the structured interview protocol asks specific objective questions in an arranged order. In addition, the questions were well structured, planned and organized in line with the objective of the study. The process encouraged the participant to respond to the question as accurately as possible. The respondent for this interview is Associate Prof. Dr. Muhammad Rumazuddin bin Ghazali, which is Lecturer of Faculty of Islamic Leadership and Management, UC.
Early life of Sheikh Muhammad Abduh. Muhammad Abduh belonged to an Egyptian modest peasant family. He was born in 1949 in a village in the Nile Delta, Lower Egypt. Abduh received early religious education from his parents, who were devout people of good character, although not formally attend any formal education. He learned Al-Quran and completely memorized it before he reached the age of 9. At the age of 13, he went to study at the Theological School of Ahmadi Mosque in the city of Tanta and complete at the University of Al-Azhar. He studied many subjects in Islamic science, including theology, logic, philosophy, and mysticism. In his 20s, while he student at Al-Azhar University, he came completely under the influence of Jamaluddin Al-Afghani, his teacher, the man who traveled in many parts of the Islamic world enchanting Muslims to unite to resist the influence of Europe and the West. Publication works. Sheikh Muhammad Abduh have many publication works. According to Rumaizuddin 2022, said among the most influential publication works are the treatise on Tafsir at-Tawhid and Tafsir al-Manar. The first one is Risalah at-Tawhid, the Theology of Unity. This work is regarded as the first modern treatise in Islamic theology. Abduh wrote critically of the effects of theological disputation, which he evidently regarded as unnecessary. Instead, he directed the focus on the philosophy of 42 Islamic prophecies, the mission of the Messenger of God ﷺ, the fundamental thrust of Islamic revelation, the conceptual understanding and discursive ideas on kalam based on the Quran and Sunnah, and philosophical debate on the nature of Tawhid. Abduh implicitly promotes a new variety of exegesis that of defying taqlid by refusing to follow a single mazhab or to be bound by tradition, precedent and custom, and to embark on reading the Quran anew by ignoring prior interpretation. This is an influential writing of Abduh documenting his interest in the classical debate on theological issues such as free will, moral law, faith and reason, and ethics. His views and position on the issues are much inspired by the rational tendencies of the Mu'tazilites. The book discusses in detail the doctrine of At-Tawhid, the philosophy and dimension of Islamic mysticism, his attacks on popular superstition, and respect for mystics who have access in part of the ultimate mysterious and true insights to a visionary world. The second most influential work is Al-Manar Journal. This is an important periodical published by Muhammad Rashid Ridha in Egypt to embark on a reform initiative with Muhammad Abduh. It offers an exclusive survey of the momentous life of Abduh in the history of Egypt in the early 19th century, concentrating on his teachings, works, speech, ideas, legacy, and his reform initiative with an exposition of his principal views on Islam and the political reform unleashed in Egypt. It was an extensive recording of his personal encounter and experience with the society, documenting the key events in his life and offering a historical analysis of the remarkable and central position of Abduh in Egypt. The significance of Al-Manar was explained by Charles C. Adams in his thesis on the profound career of Abduh. Al-Manar, the monthly journal of the Abduh Party, contains a wealth of incident and detail concerning events and persons, shows most interesting and valuable sidelights on modern Egyptian history. 44 reveals inner details of the various intrigues, political or otherwise, in which Abduh was involved, sometimes as an author but more frequently as victim. Abdul Ati Muhammad categorized three main factors of the situation in Egyptian society at that time which have a great impact on Abdu's attitude and tone in society: knowledge, culture and politics. I'll try to summarize the background of his society in specific and the Muslim Ummah in general. Okay, the first one is, there is no doubt that under the Ottoman Turks, the Egyptians had reached very low political and cultural level of development. They seem to remain medieval or pre-modern up to the beginning of the 19th century in many aspects of their life. Gibbs' opinions in the Arab province of the Ottoman Empire that the keystone of Ottoman administration was conservation and all government institutions were directed to maintain the status quo, lacking any real consideration for the welfare of Egyptians. Okay, second, in the economic sector, agricultural activities contributed to most of the Egypt products, but the mode of production remained unchanged, basically the same as those prevailing in the medieval time, except for minor alterations in urban areas. However, from the early 19th century onwards, the Western impact generally felt particularly in the economic system. The growth of British industry in this period served to bring about fundamental changes in the Egyptian social policy. The process of industrialization spread gradually because of the increased inflow of British manufactured goods into the Egyptian market. The Egyptian society underwent profound social and economic transformations. All systems by which Egyptians ordered their life were greatly affected during this period by the frantic attempts of the Khedive Ismail to make Egypt a part of Europe through extensive activities of a vast, largely foreign entrance. He founded new business, opened modern schools, brought Western technology, and introduced new organizations by the policies of a reforming British administration that controlled Egypt after 1882, and by the effort of modernizing the native elite. Another important change in Egyptian society was the increase of foreign influences accompanied by the immigration of foreigners. Foreign interests in Egypt were the result of the great financial and economic opportunities connected with the cotton, bottom and manifold projects of the Ismail government. Okay, third, in another aspect, the great progress in socio-economic give an impetus to the change of attitudes, values, habits and beliefs, specifically among the urban social groups and native Egyptian elites who have contacts with foreigners. Hisham Sharabi mentions the dawning of critical consciousness brought about the disintegration of the old system, though the habit of single-way-minded thinking began to disappear, fixed categories to crumble and divergent modes of thought to emerge. Thought of Sheikh Muhammad Abduh on education. According to Rumaizuddin 2022, he provided education and reforms at Al-Azhar University. He made reforms at Al-Azhar because at that time he was studying at Al-Azhar. He said he did not understand anything because at that time Al-Azhar University used only the traditional Turas. So, he saw the need to reform at the university. Although he did not have time to continue this, it was continued by his students, namely Sheikh Salim Al-Bishri and Shatuk, who reorganized Al-Azhar. The whole thing is like the present day, which has a table and class system. Ancient people studied in front of the mosque only on the Al-Azhar system. Anyone who wants to learn can come. So he created a system and overhauled the Al-Azhar system. For him to improve Islam is necessary through education that was made by Sheikh Muhammad Abduh. Absolutely, education is more important than politics. In terms of politics, we seem to have a shorter term, but education is longer. As it is now, educating the people is through education. If someone who is in politics dies, then it is over. For this reason, he praised Al-Azhar University. He admits that education is more important than politics.
Furthermore, I will share about contributions of Sheikh Muhammad Abduh in Islamic civilization. Sheikh Muhammad Abduh is credited with founding Islamic modernism in Egypt. He has a significant impact on the entire Islamic world because of his work to advance the religious and national rights of the contemporary Arab world. He is a famous exponent of Islamic doctrine and tradition and a key supporter of modernist Islam from the 19th and 20th centuries, which sparked a significant intellectual movement in the eras. No one will contest that the history of Egyptian modernism in the history of Abduh's and his legacy. Moreover, there are two reformations that have been made by Sheikh Muhammad Abduh in modernity contribution. Firstly, educational reform. At the Ahmadi Mosque in Tanta and Jami' al-Azhar in Cairo, Sheikh Muhammad Abduh's passion for reform had only begun to take shape. He was motivated to reform the outdated curricula because of his encounter with the conservative educational system, which required students to read texts, their commentaries, glosses on the commentaries, and super glosses on the glosses without engaging in critical analysis or comprehension. Moreover, in order to compete and advance with the scientific style of Western education, he introduced groundbreaking initiative to systematize the teaching class, syllabus, and learning method, and to include relevant articles and moral disciplines, science, philosophy, history, and other classical literary traditions. Sheikh Muhammad Abduh's strategic focus to endeavor and undertake change at Al-Azhar institutions. He criticized the educational policy introduced by Egyptian government administered by the British. He tried to embark on reform initiative and transforming the whole structure of curricula, fees, subject, and teaching components, and improving necessity of school and teachers. He emphasized the need to uplift the level and standard of Al-Azhar University and emphasize the role of British to build a strong and liberal nation of Egypt. And then Sheikh Muhammad Abduh had successfully established administrative council for Al-Azhar and became its chairman and strongest voice, which managed to introduce critical subjects such as geometry, geography, arithmetic, and algebra into the university curriculum. After all, Sheikh Muhammad Abduh had produced superb commentary on Islamic philosophy and theology based on Al-Afghani greatest works such as Al-Rad A'la Al-Dahriyin. Secondly, social and political reform. Sheikh Muhammad Abduh's movement's principal goal was to bring about social transformation in all facets of Egyptian society. Sheikh Muhammad Abduh believed that real domestic reform would result in the British being evacuated. It had made a significant contribution to reform and rebirth of Muslim society, the formation of national consciousness and enduring social institutions, and the vigorous growth of social organizations and political parties in Egypt. The movement had monumental impact in propagating and sustaining religious activity, eradicate social problems, advocating women's rights, uplifting the modern literature revival and classical Arabic language, escalating reform at Al-Azhar, advancing the religious and cultural consciousness, and establishing schools. Besides that, Sheikh Muhammad Abduh's fight for social change is very important. Sheikh Muhammad Abduh held the view that Prophet Muhammad SAW did not only plunge into personal salvation but also establish a just ummah. He argued that Muslims now should behave differently in society than they did during the time of Prophet Muhammad SAW. He claimed that circumstances will change and that the Prophet ﷺ message did not foresee all the current conditions. He tries to confront the social transformation being brought by Ismail Khidif and to close. And then Sheikh Muhammad Abduh has made a substantial contribution to national and political change by defending the political ideas of the Nationalist Party, creating a significant reform agenda and outlining its platform for widespread plan. The second contribution is contribution in science and technology. Sheikh Muhammad Abduh's massive contribution to science and technology can be gauged from his pragmatic view on the essence of scientific education, in which he says, without the spread of education in modern science, that nation will be far behind other nations living, both identity and welfare in danger of disintegration. One aspect of his contribution is harmonizing science with revealed scripture. Sheikh Muhammad Abduh's immense contribution to science can be deciphered from his major accomplishment and excellent achievement in science and philosophy throughout his career. He attempted to synthesize knowledge acquired through rational human efforts and through the Quran, which is seen as complementary to each other. Sheikh Muhammad Abduh combined naturalist and traditionalist approach in his movement, which emphasized on conviction with respect to faith and scripture. With historical Islam thus marginalized, Sheikh Muhammad Abduh embarked on reinterpreting the Quran in the light of modern science and the argument of reason as a fundamental criterion to prove the contemporary relevance of Islam as religion of ease, tolerance and conforming to the condition of human life. The principal aim of Sheikh Muhammad Abduh in introducing scientific subject was to inculcate scientific worldview, liberalizing ideas and finding pragmatic approach to learning. The third aspect could be said Sheikh Muhammad Abduh's scholastic view of placing reason on superior position, as well as highlighting the importance of logic and ijtihad in religious pursuit and maintaining that religion should be approached with logic and proof.
A glance at the early life and biography of Sheikh Muhammad Abduh shows that his life started from an ordinary family where he did not get formal education since childhood. However, he was able to give a strong influence on the whole world. Until now, the influence of Sheikh Muhammad Abduh is used to this day. As a Muslim, we must be grateful for what we have. This is because what we have is only temporary. So what we get has been determined by Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala from various aspects and is truly good for us. Secondly, we must be a good thinker such as Sheikh Muhammad Abduh. When we thought well in reforming, his thoughts on learning at that time, which was so difficult for him, caused him to reform. Therefore, it is appropriate for us to think well for future interests. Next, we must stand firm. When we have a firm attitude with our stance, we will be able to continue what we are doing, like Sheikh Muhammad Abduh, who continued his reforms despite being accused of being a Mu'tazila for reforming Al-Azhar. If we are not able to stand firm, we will not be able to achieve success in the future. From this research, we can get know the early life of Sheikh Muhammad Abduh, who was his life going well. Then we also know the thoughts and contributions Sheikh Muhammad Abduh on Islamic civilization. We emphasize thinking through an educational angle. In addition, there are many contributions to Islamic civilization that are still and continue to grow until today. Therefore, we need to appreciate the contribution he has made and take advantage of it in the present and the future. In conclusion, Sheikh Muhammad Abduh is a good reformer in education and be a good model for us in future. That's all from our group. Thank you.